Hello, hello. This is Matthew Craig. This is my second time recording this video because the first time I did it for about 10 minutes and then went back to watch it and realized that my mic was muted. So the second time I'm going to be going a bit quicker through because the majority of the code changes in here aren't really code changes, they're just kind of code additions. Because the logic for adding a second player is essentially the same thing as adding the first player with the logic duplicated. So the majority of the code I added was quite literally copy pasting the old code, changing a couple of the variable names, and then that was it. But I will be going over everything that I changed to get this going, but we're just going to be doing it a bit quicker because this is now my second time recording this video. Anyway, let's start off. So to begin, we need to initialize our player 2 the same way that we did our player 1. So we set our width and height to be the same, and then add our player 2 original, X position, and Y position, which we do here. Only difference that we do is so that they're not stacked on top of each other at the start of the game. We do our window width over 4 instead of 2, so that they are one's on the left side and one is on the right side. We need to load our flames as well. So flame 1, 2, 3 is for our image, or for our first one, and then we have our 4, 5, and 6, which we are using for our second player. And then, of course, we're using the same player art that we did before to get everything going. Over here, this is showing that we are drawing and tracking our bullets separately for our player 2 versus our player 1, because we don't want to fire bullets from the player 1 ship that are actually coming out of the player 2 ship. So we draw everything separately, we track everything separately, and is how we handle having 2 separate players. So this is our insert player bullet here. It creates a bullet that's fired from the player 2's ship position. And we do this because, like I said, we don't want to fire, when the player 2 presses fire, we don't want to shoot it from the player 1 point of view, from the player 1 ship. We also, we handle our own movement. So we'll get into this in a bit further down, but player 2 tracks their movement using WSAD keys and E to fire, versus player 1 uses the arrow keys plus F to fire. We are tracking our movement separately using player 2. And we can see that we have if W pressed, add to our velocity, S subtract from our velocity, and then A is to rotate left, and D is to rotate right. And in E, we are changing our player bullet size to add a player bullet. Oops, sorry about that. To add a player bullet. This is the same logic. Sorry, excuse me. This is the same logic that we used for our player 1, except we're doing it for our player 2 now instead. Or I guess alongside our player 1. Flame mover. This is the same logic as our flame mover for player 1, except we're using our flame 2 mover, and we're tracking it for flame 2 and player 2. Because our player 1 could be accelerating or decelerating, and their flame can be at a different cycle and timing than our second player's flame. So we want to track them separately. Okay, over here we have our bullet mover. So we need to track the movements of the bullets as well, because they will be moving at different angles depending on which player is firing them, and we want to have a data structure that basically holds on to our player 1 bullets and our player 2 bullets. Even though we're not really doing anything with them, like we're not keeping track of how many asteroids either player controlled, which we could with them separate like this. We still want to track them separately so that we can control, or we can control the bullets where they are fired out of the different players. But this is the same logic that we used for our player 1 bullets. Literally copy pasted with some changed variable names. So very simple. We do want to check here. So these are our collision. We have a couple collision checkers in a row here. This first one's for the asteroid. What we're doing is we're seeing if a collision occurs with player 2, and if it does, we're going to end the game. So this is actually a point of contention that I was kind of considering changing. If an asteroid hits our player 2, the game ends for both players at the moment. It could be cool in the future to add a check to see, okay, if player 1 goes down and player 2 is still alive, I'll let player 2 keep going. And if player 2 goes down and player 1's still alive, let player 1 keep going until they go down. So adding some sort of check here to see if player 1 is dead, then end the game. And then in the player 1 section, see, hey, if player 2 is dead, then end the game. That way, either player can keep going as long as they stay alive. At the moment, if either player gets hit, the game immediately ends. So this would be something actually for a future one, to update and change that. But at the moment, it's working. There are 2 players that are able to play the game at the same time. They just have to have more teamwork and coordination, not to have the game end. But yeah, we check separately to see if the bullets hit the enemy ship, or if the ship hits the player, or if they collide into the enemy ship. So same thing as all the checks above for the player 1, just same thing for the player 2. And that's basically all the logic stuff, honestly, is just literally the same code for the player 1, just tracked separately for the player 2 as well. So I think the only thing I want to show off is our stuff over here. So this is where the key bindings are for our new player. I decided to go with WSADE because I've played Overwatch for like years and years and years, and this is just the movement control scheme that feels most natural to me. W goes forward, S goes backwards, A rotates left, D rotates right, and then E is our firing button. So we have it in the same function that in action perform that binds the actions. And then we also have it down here for when we want to unbind an action. It's like the player unpresses a key. But yeah, we use WSADE, which I'll be showing off here in a second. Other than that, literally we have the same logic here for player 1 that we do for player 2. And we just track all of our data structures separately. And that's kind of all I got. Just quite literally, whatever we do to player 1, we do to player 2. With all that out of the way, let's actually hop into our demo to show that this is working. Maybe, if my code wants to run. There we go. So we can set this to 3, 4, 5, whatever. I'm just doing 3 because it's the default. And then new game. And we see our 2, we see our 2 players here. One of them has a blue flame, one of them has a yellow flame. So that's the movement. Let me show some left movement. Dang, the strips are not nice to me. Ooh. Okay. And then let's show off our firing. There we go. So both bullets can fire at the same time. Something actually to note here. The game does not like there being 2 players spamming bullets at the same time. The frame rate when I spam bullets out of both ships drops down very low. So that could be something, maybe just like my hardware isn't very good, or this could be something to potentially optimize in the future. That could be cool to add. But other than that, that's all I got. So thank you for watching.